Welcome everyone. We are very pleased to have you around. we're still not sure if we're supposed to speak English or French, but I think we're going to speak English for everyone. Can you hear us? Okay. No, you cannot do that. So, first of all, thank you to be here.
Thanks a lot.
We were invited initially to have an open talk on a specific topic. First of all, we're going to introduce ourselves for the one who don't know the panel. So my name is Eric Fossard. I'm the co-founder of Cocktail Spirit on the Paris Cocktail Week, which we've been running for the first one for 10 years, on the second one for 4. My background is into bartending, and I used to be a bartender back a long time ago in London, UK, for a long time. Thierry, on the other hand?
Yeah, I'm a business partner of Eric. I'm coming from spirits. I was responsible for La Maison du Whisky during 10 years. And we have founded the Cocktail Paris, the Paris Bar Show, and the Paris Cocktail Week.
So, initially we were asked to answer the question, which was, in a constant battle between all virtue, on a daily reinvention, what drives the French craft spirit and craft cocktail scene? Which was a very long question. And to answer this question, we felt when we were thinking about coming up with a presentation with Thierry, to give the scene and to start the debate with some people from the production side rather than bartenders talking about cocktails, which we felt like it will be plenty bartenders talking about cocktail in a lot of seminar at BCB. Therefore, we invited 2 different guys, which are pretty different, but in fact very close to what they do. The first one on my right is Nicolas Julhès. The one on your left is
Guillerme Grosperrin.
So they're both producers, and we're going to ask them to introduce themselves and tell us exactly where they come from and what do they do. So Nicolas.
So hello, thanks to be here. My name is Nicolas Julhès. I'm the co-founder of Distillerie de Paris. I have basically I'm a goods seller, so I'm selling wine, cheeses, goods, and I'm also a consultant for Diageo. And I have a big passion for spirits, and I wanted to produce by myself, but I didn't want to create something that was a kind of copy from the old paradigm of spirits, for which I have a lot of respect. And I wanted to create something very new, inspired by everything that I love and that I know in the spirit industry. So I choose as my kind of terroir Paris, because it's a place where there is a lot of culture of taste, but also a big energy of creativity. And that place was a kind of anti-terroir to create something different about spirits. I'm just going to take 1 second to talk about the spirit you'll taste. Je peux faire ça là? Parler de ce qui goûte quand même? Ça me fait chier qu'il goûte sans qu'on en parle.
If you take just the time to
just smell it, and I prefer to explain you what is the spirit before. Je l'explique maintenant ou après? Okay, so let's talk about Guillerme.
So my name is Guillerme Grosperrin, and I am merchant, and I am aging old cognacs. I own cellars and warehouses where I am aging about 500 casks of very old cognac. And so I have, in fact, 2 jobs. My first job is to make blends, to make blends for the big brands. And the second job, to age my own cognac and to bottle them for my clients. So later I will talk a little bit more about what I do exactly, and we can discuss all together. Thank you.
Okay, so to them, when we decided to bring Nicolas and Guillerme on stage, to us it was two different worlds on the same stage talking. You have one which is definitely the image of heritage, or looking at, if we're looking at the production of cognac, Guillerme is probably the one who is more aware of what production of cognac is, because he's not a producer as such, because he's buying old stock, but he's going to all different farms to go and try to find very special stock. We tend to say that in cognac there is about 5,000 producers, and altogether is 3,000 distillers. So there is plenty stock around, and the task of Guillerme is to go convince people to sell their old stock. So that's what he does. On the other hand, we have someone who just started very new, and actually is the first one to do so, because he actually registered the only first distillery in Paris. So we have someone which is truly into heritage, and another one which is into complete novelty, because Nicolas has no boundary. He's into a city where there was no culture of distilling, even if in the past there used to be some, but they were illegal. So everything Nicolas does, he does it with no passing by heritage from someone else. He has no boundary and can do what he wants. And she's going to talk about the product you've got in front of you, because you will serve something Nicolas is making.
Juste en fait, est-ce qu'on peut peut-être changer de format une époque? Là, en fait, on amène les gens, en fait, et en fait, il faut faire un petit truc plus convivial, en fait,
So you can start smelling the product you have in your glass. This is what we call a flavored vodka. Actually, it's a gin technique. That means we use a base of natural alcohol with maceration, infusion, and distillation. And we don't call it gin because the amount of juniper inside is very, very low. Now in the market you have many gins that are very low in juniper, but we prefer to call it flavored vodka as soon as the juniper is not very, very present. At this area of Paris, everything starts on a sheet of paper. We are not thinking about techniques or ingredients. We first of all think about a shape. What we are looking for is, we think that spirits is also a question about aesthetic. Spirit is an aesthetic shape. So first of all, we design a shape on a sheet of paper, and after that, we start to think about the techniques and the ingredients to reach that goal. Most of the time, people start to produce, and they follow the production, and at the end, they have something that they are going to sell. We are not looking for that paradigm. So for that product, the purpose was to have something very fresh and very dynamic. If you smell it, you will find something that is mostly citrusy, but you have also some flavor of flower and spice. We are using only fresh citrus. We are very close to a big market in Paris called Reinvention, and I'm there almost every morning. So during the good season, we could reach more than 300 references of citrus. So it's very, very good to compose, to produce, to design something like this. And there is also, everything in a spirit is about frame. So to keep that citrus, we have also a product like different kind of juniper, but also flower like jasmine. We have also spice to carry all the flavor of citrus. And there is also one citrus that is specific to our company that we love very much, actually, is the bergamot. Because bergamot has a special shape that permits to compose with woody, flower and spice flavor. All of those compounds are present in bergamot. So if you taste it with a very little drop like this, actually being able to talk during the tasting, you'll see that you feel something very round, smooth. We care a lot about dilution. The techniques of dilution is very, very important to have a good texture. And at the end, the final taste is like very fresh. We used to say that we want people to feel like wanted to kiss people after that. We want them to feel very fresh and dynamic in their mouth. So, and finally, we won't taste it, but if you dilute it, you can. If you have some water, you can try. It dilutes very well. So you can use that spirit in cocktails, even in very low quantity, to be like a spin in your cocktails, and it will keep its shape and its freshness.
So, just to go back to the topic, to us, we felt it was a very good example of the freedom Nicolas can get. Is not attached or tied by an appellation, and he's got a complete freedom of designing, creating any spirit he wants to, without being falling into a very restrictive appellation of category, which is a complete different kind of animal with Guillerme, because Guillerme is working within a very historical appellation with some extreme tight rules, but still with his day-to-day work, he's trying to bring some new innovation into his work. So Guillerme, can you talk to us about actually what you're trying to achieve into your aging process and on the way you are trying to improve techniques which are already...
Yes, sure. Well, in cognac, all the question is regarding tradition and innovation. And the most complicated thing is how to innovate in a so restrictive area. Because cognac, the rules and the legislation is extremely strict. Probably the most strict law in terms of aging and distillation and bottling in the spirit world. And my job has two sides. The first one is to experiment again and again the tradition. I'm trying to. I'm learning, listening, the old people talking about their work, how they do, how they age their own spirit, how they reduce the cognac. And as I am visiting a lot of people, because I am selecting cask among 5,000 producers, so I am always driving in the countryside, meeting these people. And these people, by chance, they accept to talk to me about what they do. And now I'm doing this for 15 years. And I have to say that I heard many different things. And when I come back in my cellar, then I try to make the synthesis of what I have learned and heard from them. And I try to select which is the best thing for me. I mean, for example, some people say that the best water to make a water reduction is the rainwater. And okay, I say, why not using rainwater and try? But as we are always doing, control and analysis, because I have a quality manager and we need to check different things, we did some analysis and we saw that the rainwater contain a lot of heavy metals like cadmium or plomb, because with the cars it's a sort of contamination of the rainwater. So no, it's not good anymore to use rainwater. We know wine today. Second option would be to distill the rainwater, but if you do that, you will kill the molecule from the water. So not good. And because you will make a dead water.
Was it doing that historically? Everyone used to dilute their cognac with rainwater.
Yes.
All of them.
Yeah, because it was better than the river water. And before, in the past, in the 19th century, people were taking the water, from the, how we say that in English, le puits, pozo in Spanish.
Well.
Thank you. And yes, it was rainwater. But today, it's not possible anymore to use rainwater. So we were using Volvic water, which is a French water coming from the center of France, and which give quite good results. But Volvic, even if it is a good water, was not good enough for me, because we saw that the polymerization of the Volvic water is disintegrated, because it's a dead water again. This water has been filtered, has been treated, and so on, to be a mineral water. Yes, sure. But so today, what we are doing, we are using biodynamized water. So we clean the water coming from a source, which is famous in cognac. But anyway, we clean absolutely the water. And then we are putting negative ion in it and treating it with a pH filter to make it smoother and rounder. And then we put classical music in the water to reorganize the molecule. It exists. It's what we call water memory. We believe it or not anyway, but we are trying to do our best to use best water. So initially, it was just listening the old people talking about what kind of water they were using, rainwater. Okay, we know today we can't use rainwater anymore, and it's how to reproduce the natural water, the water from storm. And the water from storm, it's in fact this biodynamized water. So, it's so our innovation is something which is part of the tradition, we could say. We don't make any innovation. People are drinking biodynamized water in many countries, Asia mainly. Korea, Japan. It's normal for them, but it was not normal to use it to reduce cognac. So then my job, yes, is to experiment tradition again and again and to select the best thing. And I'm trying always to reveal the soul of each cognac. It's something which is very important for me. When I'm buying a cask from an old man or old lady, of course, these casks sometimes spent decades aging in their own cellars. And this cask, we can say, lived with the family, The cask is full of the family life, full of the soul of the people who age this cask. It's something which is real. We feel it very strongly. And it's not only a question of techniques and a question of tasting. So I am always taking into consideration the history of each cask, the history of each cognac, trying to reveal it and to age it under the respect of all this history, all this soul, all this thing. It's something which is very important for me. So you can say it's innovation or tradition, I don't know. For me, it's more part of the tradition, but somewhere we are reinventing or we are experimenting again the tradition.
It's something we really loved when we talked with Guillerme, is that most of the time, because he is meeting so many people in the Cognac region, and all of them are distillers and wine growers. And the thing is, he always said that he's challenging the way they are working from generation to generation, not just to be very arrogant. He just want to know exactly why they are doing that this way, and, because ultimately is always a purpose in doing something. But what Guillerme is telling us sometimes is because they've been learning that from one generation to another, they tend to forget the purpose of making a special way of distilling or aging. And when he does that by challenging their way of making their work, sometimes he finds answers which they have in front of them, but they don't look at it because they never challenge the way they used to produce. So on that way, Guillerme is extremely innovative amongst his category. It's something we like to come back on a subject, and it has to do with the question which was asked about the success of craft in France. When we start talking to those two about the topic, they were first of all very touchy with the word craft. And it's something they said that if the question was raised, they want to really put the word back into its perspective of what they feel like craft is to them. So I think we should continue this conversation of trying to, on their way, on their two sides, define what for them craft means.
Thanks. Actually, if we took my example, I could be a kind of very iconic craft distillery in the new way of experimenting craft. We are in Paris, so city distillery. We are very small. We could be locator because most of the market for us is around Paris. So, but we don't want that because actually craft in France is artisanal, and artisanal has nothing to see with what we are not seeing with craft. Because what is craft now is the idea of craft. Usually there are people from another business coming in the industry of spirits, and everything is not craft except their communication. They have a special design for the bottles. They have special way of talking on the on internet with Facebook, Instagram. They are wearing cool clothes, and they are doing everything. But when you start talking with them, they are not artisan. They don't know very well their job. Actually, they are producing stuff. That's it. They don't put their life in the production. And everybody wants a kind of Google business, that startup, making a small business, having a lot of success on communication, and being bought by a big group like Diageo or Pernod Ricard. That craft spirits are mostly something about, I think, about communication. In France, most of the distillators are actually craft, artisanal. I mean, the real word artisanal. We don't have a lot of big distilleries. And most of the things we are thinking as craft in the new craft world are bigger than them. But they are communicating with the craft style, so people think they are very small and cool, and and like in the trend.
Yeah, I agree with this. Unfortunately, I'm always very surprised with the word craft, because before this trend of craft spirits, we were saying artisan spirits or artisan products. And even in the other countries and France, we were using the word artisan. And today it's becoming craft. Okay. And in craft, craft includes a lot of things. And as said Nicolas, I think it mainly includes communication and marketing in the spirit of the internet generation, we can say. Personally, even if we are small, we are one of the last independent cognac houses. When I say one of the last, perhaps we are 5 today. And we are small, we are 8 people and producing about 30,000 bottles per year, so you can see it's not big. And we don't consider ourselves as a craft spirit. No, because it's a sort of sticker, you put on the company house, and I don't recognize myself in the description of craft spirit today. I have the pretension to say that we are artisan. In artisan world, you have a very important word, which is art. And it includes, when you pretend to produce something which is close to art, you have to be fully involved in what you do in terms of production. And when you do that, believe me, you don't have time at all for marketing and communication. And it's something you have to do in addition, and you do it as you can with your mean. It's what we do because it's also important. But the most important, 80% of the time, is production. So yeah, it's something quite strange to see that craft spirits means something else that artisan spirit was meaning before, in my opinion.
And then, so when we started this discussion, we realized that the subject, like talking about craft to producer, was very touchy. It's even more strange for us because if you translate the word craft in French, it means artisan. Now, craft is into a French language. Like you add the word craft to artisan people which are actually making a product. So, of course, to them, it's seen as a marketed way of like trying to make this product special and niche and made by hand by some people who are highly dedicated and passionate. In fact, our country is full of a lot of distilleries, and historically speaking, we used to produce spirit all over France. It was something which was produced for your own purpose, mainly. It was due to the way we were farming and the way we were consuming alcohol. Now it's seen that a new distillery setting up, and Nicolas is one of them. Sometimes are done in such a way that they pretend they do something else that actually making a good product. But the aim for all of them is to be true into the thing they're making.
May I say something? Something very interesting. Because I'm in Paris, I meet a lot of people. Actually, I wanted to be in Paris to grab that energy. But I met also a lot of people that have a project of making like a French whiskey or a craft gin or something like this. And sometimes I say, okay, you want to make a French whiskey, but how it's gonna taste and how you're gonna make it taste like this. And most of the time they are like, or they say, I want a sherry cask. So sherry cask is not a whiskey, it's a cask actually. And after those discussions, people used to say, actually, I'm more involved in the marketing view or about the storytelling or something like this. But this is what is the new craft paradigm. It's storytelling. And it's very important to be connected with the real innovation, to be 100% involved in what we are producing. And it's very interesting here in the bar show because the bartender are using our spirit to dig and to create the spin of the cocktail, because alcohol is the main solvent in a cocktail. So if we want to be in long and good relationship with the cocktail scene, we need to have spirits that bring some real innovation. Like, for example, in my distillery, what we are looking to do is to create new frame, new style, new spirits. For example, we work a lot about a maple spirit drink. It's something completely new that brings new flavor, new structure to create new cocktails. If you're looking, most of the cocktail tradition comes from the classic that have been built on the base of great French liquor, on the great French spirits like cognac, for example. So if we want to create real innovation to fulfill the creativity of the bartending, we need to really put a lot of energy to create new spirits, not to be a copycat of the old paradigm, just claiming the low cavo or the small or the organic or other claim like this. It has to switch between craft equal storytelling to craft equal being involved in the spirits and being completely dedicated to innovation and creativity.
So now, if we go back to the initial question, which was a thrive of craft spirit on craft cocktail, Nicolas is a good example of how this thing can really merge together and work towards success. Being in Paris, he located in the heart of Paris. He's got a lot of bars which are very close to his distillery. Nicolas talks to bartenders on actually design with them and for them a product we make them look different on an international scene, but even in Paris. We have now this interaction between the maker and the bartender who makes this offer far much richer than it used to be in the past. Now, products are sometimes designed with bartender to make sure that they are well used into cocktails and bars. Thierry? We haven't had Thierry at all.
Well, me, to come back to the team, I think it's very important to understand what's your difference between la Gabar, Grosperrin, and la Distillerie de Paris. And you have a mutual respect, you know, very a long time ago. And if you could describe what do you like, en fait, at la Distillerie de Paris, and Nicolas, what do you like at la Gabar?
So, well, we had a lot of discussion, and I know I have to say positive things because if not, I will get some problems later. So, no, Nicolas is doing a very great job in Paris. It's something I like very much because he considers himself as a laborantin. If we use the French name, saying that he's experimenting, you know, everything, and he keeps the best from each terroir because he has these possibilities that I don't have. You know, to use, to think about tequila, to think about cognac, to think about whiskey, and as he's also épicier. As a grocer, wholesaler, he's visiting all these people and he can get the best idea and to experiment all these ideas in his distillery and thinking in terms of aesthetic and as a poet, you know, working with his pot still. It's something I like very much because I'm trying to do, you know, this stuff also in my cellar in another way. And so, yeah, it's something I appreciate a lot from Nicolas and his work. And I invite you to visit his booth here on the fair and to taste all the different cuvées and different spirits he has. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. For me, it's easier because I met Guillerme first of all as a customer. I'm selling his product in my stores, and because they are kind of references in the cognac small houses, the risk is to say just I'm selling the cognac Grosperrin just because Grosperrin is cool or because everybody says that the spirits are cool. But actually, if you care a lot about the spirits, you'll see that the most part of its job is to be very good in sourcing the spirits. There is just few people in the spirit industry that can taste a spirit and without any indication of techniques or age or whatever are able to know what is a beautiful spirit. And Guillerme knows how to do it. And even if the spirit is beautiful but not perfect, he knows how to design the spirits by aging, by dilution, by breathing, to reorganize the spirits and to reveal the great beauty of that spirits. Because at the end, techniques is just a way, but something that is going to stay is the emotion. If you want to make a great spirit, you have to give emotion to people. That's why spirits is like aesthetic. The technique is not enough. You have to know how to find the spirit and how to design the spirit to be to be amazing and to touch people. And if you have the chance to taste some very old spirits from Guillerme, you'll see that you won't think about techniques. You'll just be amazed by that beauty, actually. This is about beauty, not about techniques.
And for you, you talk about design spirits. What is your inspiration together?
Well, for me, I have two main inspirations. The first one is the cognac merchants from the 19th century. We can say the beginners. People like Delamain in the 19th century, Hennessy in the 19th century, and people like that were the first to introduce aging methods and were the first to introduce a certain exigence and a certain, how I can say that, they were thinking how to do the best, because it was just a question of how to survive in this very with a very high competition, because at that time there were a lot of small merchants, which is not the case anymore. And but these people, they introduced a lot of very interesting aging methods. So I look a lot at their job in the 19th century. Then second thing, and I know it's not so rational and not so concrete. The second thing is alchemist, because looking for the philosophical stone, I don't know if it's the right word, looking gold, we can say. They were wondering how to improve and how to communicate the raw material. And doing this, they were building bridge between the raw material and themselves. It's something very important, and when you are thinking in terms of biodynamic, in terms of irrational things in the aging process, which are very important, and which are the thing you are trying to improve when you have already the technique as we have. Well, you personally, I have to say, I always wonder how to create these bridges between the raw material and myself, and it's something very important. So I have to say two things: the methods from the merchant of the 19th century, and second things, alchemists.
And for you, Nicolas?
So for me, there is more influences, because I build the distillery to be on influences of the most things we can reach. And first of all is the tradition, actually. I love and I have a big interest for everything in whiskey, Armagnac, rum, but mostly cognac, because in cognac they have been producing premium spirits for 5 centuries. Rich people from everywhere in the world have been drinking cognac So they had more money to buy the best cask, the new cask from Cognac. They have more money to have beautiful steel, and they are connected with the grapes. That is a fantastic raw materials to produce alcohol. So this is a big source of inspiration for my distillery. But because we're in Paris, we have a lot of inspiration coming from architecture, because actually you will never design a shape on whatever it is your material. You will never design a shape without having a beautiful structure. So architecture is very interesting. After that, there is a big inspiration for the cooking chef and pastry chef, because they have many years being involved in creativity and aesthetic before we did. Now, when you're going in a gastronomic restaurant, you won't go there for a meal. You're going there for emotion. So they are very, very interesting. And even in the cocktail scene, now we can see that the cocktail scene is very influenced by the cooking chef and pastry chef. And finally, there is a very, very good source of inspiration for us, that is perfume. Because perfume don't even has to be tied by the product. They can even create some new molecules, a new flavor to design beautiful feelings. So it was very interesting for us to create. We have been creating a perfume actually, and it was very interesting to understand that making a spirit, we are working with a shape, and that shape has to be balanced, beautiful, deep, and complex to touch people. So all these influences are possible because we are in Paris. We don't have any limits, and we can create something that is our inspiration. We don't care about the market. We are making aesthetic proposition. That's it. So this is what we get from Paris. Paris is maybe one of the best cities in the world to be on inspiration about aesthetic, because there is many, not because French people are better than the other, but because there is many people coming from everywhere in the world to learn our cooking tradition, to learn our tradition, and they are coming in Paris to learn. But actually, they bring much more than they get. They bring with them their tradition, their culture, their influences. That's why Paris is so. Paris has to keep that energy.
And can you see a difference within the last 10 years to see this energy growing and becoming even more present?
Yes, we saw big increases of that, and most of the time because of the cooking scene on Paris. We had many chefs coming from the foreign countries, but also chefs that have been French chefs that have been going in Japan, in India, in USA, and coming back with new energy. And everything is moving along a lot. And we had a big changement, unfortunately, for a few years ago with the attentat in Paris. On the attentat? Yes, the attentat in Paris. And because of that, French people from Paris get proud again. In the past, we were not very proud of our city, and we didn't appreciate the city at the right level. And after the attentat, people were very proud of Paris. They realized how that city is beautiful, and it brings back the DNA, the energy of Paris. And this is a lot of. It is very helpful for improving the creativity.
And what is your vision today about the cocktail scene? And you have seen the evolution of the community, the evolution of the movement. What is your vision today?
For me, it's also very interesting because in Paris I'm very connected with the cocktail scene. And actually, for producer as we are, it's very interesting because bartenders are dealing with the final consumer. And nothing is going to be possible without that final consumer that pay for the drink. So being connected with the cocktail scene is very interesting because we get a lot of feedback and it's interesting. But also, we are less, we are more connected with the outside. When you're a producer, sometimes you are just thinking about your product. And it could be, we talked about that yesterday with Guillerme, you could be closed in your own feelings. But when you are going in the bar and looking for your product reshaped by the bartender, you understand how your product is going to enjoy. For example, in the distillery of Paris, we care very, very much about dilution. Because if you have a beautiful dilution, your spirits is going to be very easy to mix. Sometimes I invite you to do something, taste a spirit, and put some sparkling water inside, half and half. And sometimes the spirit is going to be more straight and more aggressive and astringent. But sometimes another spirit with the same dilution is going to be rounder and deeper and smoother. And this is about dilution. And because we are connected with the cocktail scene, we know that it's very important for us to design the product to be mixable. So that's why this is another part of the creativity from Paris.
And when you create spirits, you think about the bartender and the process of creation?
Actually, yes, and especially for the white spirits, because a gin is almost... I think that for all the spirits, more than 80% of the time, they are diluted, mixed. So it's very interesting to be connected with the cocktail scene because you understand how it's important for people to enjoy the spirits in the real condition. And a bartender is going to reshape, to reinterpret, to make a reinterpretation of your spirits. So you need to care about that. And in the other side, the bartender has to keep in their mind that the principal spin of their cocktail is going to be alcohol, because water is a bad solvent, sugar is a bad solvent. The only good solvent are fat and alcohol. So actually, if you want to make great cocktail, you have to think your cocktail in very good relationship with the spirits. For example, they are not using it a lot, but beautiful and expensive spirits like the one from Guillerme could be very interesting, but in very small amount in a cocktail. So it's not going to change a lot the cost of the cocktail, but it's going to bring you something in your cocktail that is impossible to get without those spirits that have been for decades in cask with the job of Guillerme to make them with that kind of complexity and energy. So I think the next step for the distiller, merchant and bartender is to reconnect our world, because our spirits could be beautiful in a cocktail, and cocktail could be beautiful with our spirit only if we get very, very close together to understand we are the spin and they are the composition. We cannot work without not being very close.
You cannot work apart. You need to work together.
We need to talk.
And one question. Can you tell us, since you opened the distillery, how many different products have you been producing? Do you know that?
Actually, we have been designing more than 70 different products in 3 years. Not 70. Not because we want to, yes, selling, that have been sold. Not because we want to be in the Guinness Book of Record, but because it's a lab where we are thinking spirit as a shape. And we don't care about the market. We are experimenting different line, actually. It will be, of course, easier and better in terms of money to have one craft, low-cavor, vodka or gin, very simple, without fresh ingredients. But Distillery of Paris is not something about money. It's a kind of journey. Maybe one day we could have kind of special meeting or whatever and making a little bit of money, but it has to be a question of luck. I think to be back in the craft paradigm, the new craft paradigm, most of producers, they just think about money before thinking about their journey, about their job. I don't have anything, I like money, it's cool. But if you start looking for money, you won't do something inspiring. You know, in cognac, the best houses of cognac now are not here because they were thinking about the money before the other. They are here because it was like Darwin, you know. At the beginning, there were many people, and the best of them have been recommend and growing and improving step by step. The worst were just dying. And the shortcut now is that because of communication, even if you are not the best, you could be the most successful. But for sure, in 20, 30 years, the best communicating successful brand that is coming out now are not going alive anymore. You know, all the big company that are buying by Diageo, for example, with Distill Venture or something like that, they are just the best storytelling. And they know that. One of my friends, Dan Gasper, that is buying the new company for Diageo, is looking for storytelling because right now, storytelling are bankable. But at the end, they are not going to stay alive because storytelling is just okay as an advertisement to make people taste your product. But if they are not good enough in the long term, most of them are going to die.
Do you, beyond each cask of Guillerme, there is a storytelling. What do you offer? Do you agree with that?
Sorry to talk for Guillerme, but it's not a storytelling, it's the real life. I mean, yes, it's a real story. It's not telling. Guillerme is not working with actually companies like us. We spend so much money in the product that we don't have any money to put in the real communication. We don't have a company to help us in communication or design or whatever. We cannot make storytelling. We can just write our own story. That's it.
Well, it's all to do with the fact that customers like good stories. So unfortunately, sometimes you have to fake it if you don't have one. That's what happened. Now, just to draw to a conclusion and to go back to the cocktail scene, because it was part of the question, the initial question of why it's actually very successful in France. And I guess that's why our German friends ask us this question. It's very funny because there's only a lot of French in front of me when I'm going to say that. But we were talking about that, and we felt like pretty much the same way as they were talking earlier. In fact, you gain success only if you have a customer to really go to your product or really be in your bars. What makes the French scene successful at the moment is pretty much because the French are rediscovering fully the cocktail in France. I know they are really hungry to discover, they want new things, and they're going into cocktail bar, they're buying cocktail books, they're making cocktail at home. Cocktail is back into the scene in France, and that's what makes a successful cocktail scene at the moment in France, and I'm sure it will be like that for many years to come, with products like they produce and others. Thierry?
To finish, for me, I'm very convinced by it's not a battle between old and new. It's more complex. The world is more complex. People are more complex. It's not black. It's not white. And when we invite Guillerme and Nicolas, at the beginning, Guillerme, it was the tradition way, and Nico the modern way. And I'm sure that there is a part of modernity and there is a part of history, and old and new are together. And we need to educate people, we need to understand the stories, and we need to share knowledge to understand, and it's a mix. It's impossible, it's not a battle, anyway.
There is something very interesting in what you just say. We have to be very, very careful that communication is not coming in taking the place of education. And it's the same for bartending. If the new bartending, the innovation in bartending are just fancy ingredients or fancy bullshit tricks, actually people are going to lose contact with the cocktail scene in 3, 4, 5 years maybe maximum. But if spirits or the cocktail scene is inspiring because they are creating beautiful shape, beautiful cocktail, as all the great, if there is new future classics, people are going to keep in touch with the cocktail scene. I mean, a Negroni has nothing fancy or fancy ingredients, or you don't throw your Negroni 3 meters far from your jigger, but actually we are drinking Negroni for decades and we love Negroni still now. So, sorry? Yes, even comes out of a fountain, great.
So to thank you all to have been listening to us, now we'd like you to come and we're going to make you test one of Guillerme cognac. So if you want to come, Guillerme is going to pop the bottle. Thank you very much.